Welcome to our channel, and today another story, another truth that cannot be ignored.
It was one of those nights where the rain wasn't just falling, it was pounding. A relentless downpour that turned the city streets into shimmering rivers. And there I was, standing soaked to the bone, right outside the most exclusive restaurant in town, the Gilded Spoon. This place was all polished marble and velvet ropes, the kind of spot where you needed a reservation a month in advance just to get a glimpse of the menu. Tonight, though, I wasn't just hoping for a table. I was standing there, trying to get in, with a huge, important package in my arms, and a woman at the door who looked at me like I was something she'd found stuck to the bottom of her shoe. I'd called ahead, explained the situation. Mr. Henderson, the owner, was expecting me. This wasn't some delivery I could leave on the curb. This was something he'd been waiting for his entire life. Something that had cost a fortune to get here from across the country. And it needed to be handled with extreme care. The package was heavy, wrapped in thick canvas and secured with so many straps it looked like a treasure chest from an old movie. I told the woman at the door all this, but her eyes just stayed glued to my face, then my hands, then the package, with this cold, hard stare. "Sir," she said, her voice like chipped ice, "we have a dress code and a reservation policy. You are clearly not dressed for this establishment, and you don't have a reservation." I tried to keep my cool. My teeth were chattering a little from the cold and the rain. "Look, I know, I'm sorry about my clothes. I got caught in the storm. But I'm not a customer. I'm here for Mr. Henderson. I called him an hour ago. He said to just come right in."
She didn't even blink. Her lips were a thin, straight line. Mr. Henderson is a very busy man. He doesn't take unscheduled appointments, and he certainly doesn't have visitors coming in through the front door looking like you. The "like you" hung in the air, a punch to the gut. I knew what she meant. I've been a big guy my whole life, not just tall, but broad. My skin is dark, the kind of dark that seems to make some people uncomfortable for no reason. Right then, I was wearing a soaked t-shirt and jeans, a mess of a person holding a priceless object. I could see the reflection of the restaurant's glittering chandelier behind her, the happy faces of people laughing and eating inside. It felt like a different world, one I wasn't welcome in. I took a deep breath. "Ma'am, please, this is very important. Mr. Henderson is expecting this package. It's for his son. It's his birthday gift. He specifically asked me to bring it tonight." I felt a knot of desperation tightening in my stomach. The thing in my arms was the most delicate thing I'd ever touched. It wasn't a package. It was a dream, a memory, a piece of someone's life. And this woman was blocking the way, not just with her body, but with her assumptions. She crossed her arms, a final, unshakable wall. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You are disturbing the other patrons."
I couldn't believe it. I'd driven 12 hours straight, battled a flash flood on the highway, and now I was being turned away at the finish line. The rain was running down my face, mixing with what felt like a wave of pure frustration. My knuckles were white as I gripped the package tighter. This wasn't just about getting in. It was about respect. It was about being seen as a human being, not just a stereotype. My mind was racing, trying to figure out what to do. The package was getting heavier by the second. I felt a surge of anger, a hot, bitter wave that threatened to spill over. I'd come so far, and she just wasn't going to let me pass. This was it, the moment of truth. My blood was boiling. I was about to say something I'd regret, maybe even yell. But then, a voice from inside the restaurant cut through the noise of the rain and the buzz of the dining room. A voice that was calm and clear and full of authority. "What's going on here, Maria?" The woman, Maria, immediately straightened her back. Her frosty expression melted into a practiced, professional smile. "Nothing, sir. Just a small misunderstanding. I was just asking this man to step away from the door."
A man in a sharp suit and an even sharper look in his eyes came to the door. He was in his late 50s, with gray hair at his temples and a presence that made everyone around him seem a little smaller. I recognized him from the pictures I had seen online. This was Mr. Henderson, the owner, the person I'd talked to on the phone. My heart hammered against my ribs. Finally.
But before I could say a word, Maria jumped in. I told him he can't come in, sir. He's not a customer. He doesn't have a reservation, and he looks, well, you can see for yourself. Mr. Henderson's gaze moved from Maria to me, taking in my wet hair, my stained jeans, the heavy package. He looked me up and down for a long, quiet moment, and I could feel my frustration turn into a burning shame. My stomach was in a tight ball. I felt like I was back in high school being judged for my clothes. Was this gonna be it? Was he gonna side with her? Was I gonna get sent away after all that? The silence felt like a lifetime. The rain kept drumming. Maria stood there, confident in her judgment. I just stood there, waiting for my fate, the weight of the package feeling like the weight of the world. Then, Mr. Henderson's eyes met mine. They weren't cold. They weren't judgmental. There was a warmth in them, a flicker of understanding. He looked at me, really looked at me, not at my clothes or my skin or my wet hair. And then a small smile, a genuine one, touched his lips. And that's when he said the three words that changed everything, the words that made Maria's face go completely slack, the words that made me feel like I could finally breathe again.
And that's when he said the three words that changed everything. The words that made Maria's face go completely slack. The words that made me feel like I could finally breathe again. He's my brother. The words hung in the air, a bell tolling in the sudden silence. Not in the way you mean a friend or a fellow man, but in a way that meant family. For a second, I wasn't sure I'd heard him right. But then he stepped forward, his expression softening as he looked at me. "I'm so sorry, man. I was held up in a meeting. I knew you were coming. Didn't you tell Maria?" Maria looked like a statue, frozen in disbelief. Her eyes darted from Mr. Henderson to me, a flicker of panic in them. "Sir, I didn't understand. He said his name was Jamal, but I thought he was just another—" She trailed off, unable to finish the thought, unable to voice the stereotype that had guided her judgment. Mr. Henderson didn't even look at her. He just put a hand on my shoulder. "Jamal, you look like you've been swimming. Come on in, and bring that with you. Did you make good time?" My mind was reeling. I couldn't form a sentence. I just nodded, stepping past Maria, who still hadn't moved. The warm air of the restaurant hit me, a relief after the cold rain. I could feel the eyes of the other patrons on me, some curious, some a little confused. But I just followed Mr. Henderson as he led me through the dining room, the heavy package still in my arms.
We went to a quiet booth in the back. He motioned for me to put the package on the seat. "Get something to drink, please," he told a passing waiter, who just nodded and walked away. No questions, no judgment. Just a simple, direct command. He knew I belonged here, and that was all that mattered. He turned back to me, his smile wide. "So, is this it? The real thing? After all this time?" I finally found my voice. "Yeah, Mr. H, it is. Straight from the workshop, freshly restored. And it's a beauty." I carefully started to unstrap the canvas covering. Maria was watching from the front desk, her face a mixture of shock and embarrassment. But I didn't care. All that mattered was the man in front of me, the one who saw past the rain-soaked clothes and the dark skin and saw his brother. He explained what I'd missed. His son, Michael, was turning 16. Michael had been obsessed with vintage cars his whole life. Not just any cars, but a specific model from the 1960s that had been a family treasure. Mr. Henderson's dad, Michael's grandfather, had owned one. It was his pride and joy, but it had been sold off years ago to pay for medical bills after a long illness. He told me the story of how his father had loved that car, how he used to take him for rides every Sunday, how he'd polish it until it shined like a diamond. It was a car that held the memories of a family's love, their struggles, and their triumphs. Mr. Henderson wanted to find and restore one for his son's 16th birthday. It was a secret, a surprise, the ultimate tribute.
I was the guy who could make that happen. My small business specialized in finding and restoring rare classic cars. Mr. Henderson had found me online, seen my work, and contacted me. For the past 6 months, we'd been on the phone almost every day. He'd told me stories about his dad, about Michael, about his dream to give his son a piece of their family's history. We'd shared stories of our lives, our families, our hopes. He knew about my little sister and how I was working hard to put her through college. I knew about his wife's beautiful art collection and his dream of retiring to the countryside. Over the phone, we were just two men, two brothers in spirit, connected by a shared mission and a mutual respect. That's what he had meant when he'd called me his brother. It wasn't a blood relationship, but it was something even stronger, a bond forged through shared humanity and trust. And now, here we were, the final reveal, the moment we had both been waiting for. With a few more tugs, I pulled the canvas off, revealing the masterpiece. It wasn't a real car, of course. It was a detailed, custom-built, half-scale replica of the vintage car from the 1960s. It was a work of art, with every single detail painstakingly recreated. The sleek lines of the body, the gleaming chrome, the deep, rich blue paint that reflected the restaurant lights like a starry night. It was perfect.
Mr. Henderson's eyes went wide. He reached out a trembling hand, running his fingers over the polished hood. He didn't speak for a long time. His eyes were a little misty, and a huge smile, a smile that was full of pure joy and a touch of sadness for the past, spread across his face. It's perfect, Jamal. It's absolutely perfect. My dad, he would have loved this. This is more than a gift. This is a memory, a story. You've brought a piece of my father back to me. Thank you. Thank you so much. He looked at me, his eyes full of gratitude, and I knew that every mile, every storm, every moment of frustration at the door was worth it. This was what I lived for. This was why I did what I did, to bring joy and healing to others through my work. And then he got up, and with a quick glance at his watch, he said to me, "Okay, we don't have a minute to lose. Michael's birthday dinner is about to start, and he has no idea what's about to happen. Come on, I want you to be here when he sees it. I want you to see his face." He grabbed my arm and pulled me along, a man full of excitement and a little boy's joy. He walked me right past Maria, who still stood like a statue, her face a canvas of regret. He just looked at her for a second, a gentle look in his eyes, but a look that spoke volumes. It said, "You missed it. You almost blocked a miracle." And he kept on walking. The restaurant was buzzing with energy, and as we walked, I noticed a small commotion happening in a private dining room. The door was ajar, and I could hear voices, people talking and laughing. This was where the party was happening. Mr. Henderson gave me a knowing smile and then quietly nudged the door open just a crack. He looked at me, his eyes gleaming, and whispered, "Ready?" My heart was pounding. This was it, the moment of truth. He nudged the door open just a crack. He looked at me, his eyes gleaming, and whispered, "Ready?" My heart was pounding. This was it, the moment of truth. Mr. Henderson pushed the door open the rest of the way, and a wave of sound and light washed over us. Inside, the room was full of family and friends, all gathered around a big table. A banner that read, "Happy 16th birthday, Michael," hung on the wall. Michael, a tall kid with his dad's kind eyes, was sitting at the head of the table laughing with his friends. He had no idea what was about to happen. Mr. Henderson stepped into the room and everyone quieted down. His wife, a beautiful woman with a warm smile, looked at me with a questioning glance, but he just gave her a little wink. "Michael," he said,
his voice a little choked up. "I have a surprise for you. Something I've been working on for a long time. This isn't just a gift. This is a part of our history, a part of your grandfather." Michael's face went from confusion to pure curiosity. He looked at the covered object I was still holding. I carefully walked into the room and placed the replica on an empty table near the door. Everyone was watching me now, trying to figure out what was under the canvas. I felt a little nervous, a little awkward, but Mr. Henderson's presence next to me gave me confidence. He knew what this meant, and he wanted me to be a part of it.
I gave him a nod, and he said, "Okay, son, it's all yours." Michael stood up and walked over to the table. He reached out and carefully, slowly pulled the canvas off. The moment the rich blue paint caught the light, a gasp went through the room. Michael froze. He stared at the car, his mouth slightly open, his eyes wide. He wasn't looking at a toy or a model. He was looking at a perfect miniature version of his family's legend, the car his grandfather had loved so much. He ran his hand along the fender, tracing the lines, and then he looked up at his dad. "Dad, is this grandfather's car? The one you used to tell me about?" His voice was just a whisper. "It's a perfect replica, son," Mr. Henderson said, his voice full of pride. "Every single detail, from the color to the engine. We worked on this for months." He paused, looking at me. And "we" is the key word here. This is Jamal. He's the one who found the original plans, who spent hundreds of hours recreating every single piece. He's a true artist, and he made this dream a reality. Michael's eyes shifted from his dad to me. He walked over, his face full of awe. He shook my hand, his grip firm and full of gratitude. "Thank you so much. This is the best gift I've ever gotten. You have no idea what this means to me. Thank you." It was an incredible feeling. The gratitude in his eyes, the pure joy, the realization that this wasn't just a thing, but a piece of his family's story. It was more than a paycheck. It was a purpose.
As the party continued, I faded back, happy to just watch the pure joy on Michael's face as he showed the car to his friends, explaining every little detail. Mr. Henderson came over to me later, a glass of something bubbly in his hand. "Jamal," he said quietly, "I need to tell you something. I was waiting for this moment. I had my doubts, not in you, but in the world." He looked over at the front door where Maria still stood, a silent sentry. I heard what she said. I heard the tone she used, and I felt a fire inside me. I wanted to just fire her on the spot. But then I looked at you. You were standing there in the rain with this priceless thing in your arms, and you didn't yell or cuss or lose your temper. You were a gentleman. You just kept trying to do what was right. And in that moment, I knew. I knew you were the right person for this. I knew I hadn't made a mistake. You came all this way, through all that mess, and you never gave up. You showed her and you showed me what a person with real character looks like. And that's a lesson that is worth more than any price tag. He put a hand on my shoulder. When I called you my brother, it wasn't just a figure of speech. It was the truth. Because we are all brothers and sisters in this life. We are all connected, whether we know it or not. And we have to stand up for each other no matter what. Maria made a mistake, but she will learn. I will make sure of it. I was speechless. I'd come in here expecting a quick handoff and a check. I was leaving with something so much bigger. I was leaving with a sense of respect, a feeling of being seen and valued for who I was, not for what I looked like or what I was wearing. The night was still young, but the lesson had already been delivered. This wasn't just a story about a car. It was a story about humanity, about looking past the surface and seeing the soul, about how a simple act of kindness, a simple word, can change everything. And that's a lesson that we all need to remember.
As the party continued, I faded back, happy to just watch the pure joy on Michael's face as he showed the car to his friends, explaining every little detail. Mr. Henderson came over to me later, a glass of something bubbly in his hand. "Jamal," he said quietly, "I need to tell you something. I was waiting for this moment. I had my doubts, not in you, but in the world." He looked over at the front door where, as the party continued and the joy in that room became its own kind of music, I finally got my chance to say a quiet goodbye. Mr. Henderson saw me heading for the door and came over. He put a hand on my back, a firm, comforting gesture. "You don't have to rush off," he said. "Stay and have some cake. There's plenty." I smiled. "I wish I could, Mr. H., but I've got a long drive back. My sister's got a big exam in the morning, and I told her I'd be home to help her study." He understood immediately. "Family first. I get it. We'll talk soon." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a check. "Here you go, the final payment, and a little extra, for your time and for the lesson you taught all of us tonight." I took the check, but my eyes were on his. "You know, Mr. H," I said, my voice low, "you didn't have to do that. You just gave me a gift more valuable than any amount of money tonight. You gave me back my dignity. You showed that woman at the front door and everyone else that you don't judge a book by its cover. That's a lesson for the ages." He nodded, his eyes serious. "It's the only lesson that truly matters, Jamal. It's so easy to let our assumptions, our biases, cloud our judgment. But we have a choice every single day. We can choose to see people for who they really are inside. We can choose to be kind. We can choose to be brothers and sisters." With that, we shook hands, a handshake that felt like a silent promise. As I walked out, I saw Maria standing by the front desk. She looked at me, and this time, her eyes held something different. Not the cold judgment from before, but a kind of quiet, deep regret. I just gave her a small nod, a gesture of peace. I wasn't angry anymore. Her reaction didn't define me. My reaction to her had defined me. And in the end, it was my peace that mattered. The rain had stopped. The air was cool and clean. As I stood on the sidewalk, I thought about the night. A few hours ago, I was ready to give up, to let the frustration win. But a single act of kindness, a single person who chose to see my humanity, had changed everything. It wasn't just about a birthday present. It was about a much bigger message, a message that we all need to hear, a message that says, don't let the hate of others define you. Let your own kindness be your guide. Let your character shine so bright it can't be ignored. Stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. Life is full of moments like this, moments when you're standing in the rain, feeling alone, facing a closed door. But you never know when someone will open that door for you. You never know when a helping hand, a kind word will come from the person you least expect. And when that moment comes, when you are the one who gets to open that door for someone else, you have to do it. You have to be the one who says, "He's my brother." Because in the end, we're all just trying to get in from the rain. So, what do you think? Has a story like this ever happened to you? A moment when you or someone you knew was judged unfairly, and then someone came along and stood up for them? I want to hear your stories. Don't forget to like this video if it touched you, subscribe for more stories that will move you and make you think, and share this with someone who needs to hear this message. And leave a comment below and tell me your story. Let's create a community where we share our stories and stand up for each other. Let's be brothers and sisters.